right, welcome back to It's All Good Podcast. This is episode 16. My name is Max, and I'm the host of this podcast. On this podcast, I like to have creatives on here to talk about their creative outlets in order to help inspire others. So if that sounds interesting to you, feel free to hit that subscribe button. But hey, today we have a super fun and exciting episode with a good friend of mine, Ellen. She's just so talented. She's a filmmaker, freelancer. She makes a lot of cool wedding videos, a lot of cool music videos. She films music, lots of other cool things that she talks about in this episode. So I'm just really excited for you guys to hear this one. And with that said, enjoy this episode.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Max. This is awesome.
Hit you up super last minute, but you're like, yeah, I'm down. It's like, cool. So yeah, first off, let's so how we know each other.
Yes.
We've told a few people this, but we met back over doing So Far sound shows. I don't exactly remember the story of how you got into So Far. I guess you could get into
I can tell
how you got into that.
So, yeah, I think so that was 2018, right?
Yeah.
When we met. So I had heard from, well, first of all, I had gone to a few So Far sound shows with a friend, and he is into sound. He's like a production sound guy. He was telling me about how you can volunteer with So Far Sounds. He had like applied before to run sound for them. And so I was like, oh, that's neat. Like, I was still in school at the time. I was a senior in college, and I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, I would love to volunteer for them. So I applied to do that and just never heard back from them so far. I was like, oh, I guess they're probably just really busy right now, or like, I don't know. But it turned out to be good because like I was really busy. It was my last year of college, like lots of work to be done that year. So, but then I heard back from them like a year later. I like got a random email that was like, hey, I was going through like our volunteer requests, and I noticed that you had like filled out a request a long time ago, and I wondered if you were still, and I don't even remember who this email was from, but it's like because you're the head of video now. I was the head of video at the time. And he was just like, I was wondering if you were still, interested, and like we actually have an opportunity to pay now, because before I don't think they were paying. I think it was all volunteer basis. So I was like, oh, sweet, like, yeah. And at that point too, I had was graduated, like was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Was that your first gig?
And my first gig, meaning like ever?
As like a freelancer?
No, it wasn't my first video gig for sure. I had some like smaller, local things here in Toledo, Ohio that I had done before. But it did feel a little bit more like official, just because I was like, oh, I have like a degree now, and like I can prove that I know what I'm doing. And it was just kind of cool because I like love music, and I love the whole idea of like So Far is just the coolest,
right.
Like having people who you don't know in one room, and like meeting people that you've never met before, and hearing music you've never heard before. And I just love that whole idea. So I just was like cared less about making money and more about like meeting cool people and listening to cool music.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like this fun opportunity. So I think I only did like a few shows that summer, but you were at one of the shows that I was helping at. You were also shooting video.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And
that was a fun show because it was on a like beautiful rooftop.
That was
so
sick.
Yeah,
that was. Yeah. I remember that. That was definitely a crazy. The Chicago Loud 9 played. I think this band called Pookie played, and I don't remember who the third band was at the moment.
They were from LA. I forget their name too, but it was like two brothers.
Yeah.
You remember this? They were like two brothers, and they were from LA, and they were like traveling all around at the time and doing So Far shows. So it was a great mix of people, like all different styles of music. Was it a 9-piece band?
I think so, yeah.
Is that why it's called 9?
Yo, check out Loud 9,
They had like a saxophone, and they had trumpets, and that was like probably one of my favorites because it was just so fun. Like it was like, but it was like you got experience shooting all different kinds of musicians at the same time. Like we had like kind of like low-key indie band, two people, and then like this big like large band with a bunch of different instruments and stuff. So it was like kind of a good experience for me to like learn how to like film live music.
And I think the thing that like stood out to me that night was like the fact of like how you shot it stood out, because like I'm used to the way other people were shooting it, and it was like I'd get this like we have like our wide shot and then we have our other angle, and I'm used to getting this like other flat looking shot that looks really close to the wide one. So I was like, wait a minute, like I think she shot it right, like because I just wasn't like used to seeing someone shooting music right. Especially when like,
well, that's good to know, because like it was one of, you know, that summer was the first experience I had shooting live music.
I just remembered editing it being like, ooh, this is like camera's in the right spot right now. Like this looks good. So yeah, that was fun. And then after that, I don't know, do we do another so far after that one, or I don't think we did.
That was it. I think we just exchanged information. Like we were like, well, it was fun working with you. Like we shared our Instagrams with each other, and then we just like followed each other's work from then.
And then so this is like, that's the crazy part, is like it was like Instagram, when you follow someone, right? Everyone knows this. It doesn't mean you're like following them anymore, because like their stuff can get distant, and then you're just like technically not following them. So your stuff had got like distant from me for like the longest time, and I was like, it dawned on me one day when, and you know this, but they hit me up and they're like, hey, we need like video people to come shoot, blah blah blah, and then they handed me a list and your name was on the list, and I was like, wait, Ellen, yeah, that's right, she did the Chicago, like where is she at? And I had to like look your name up to see where I was like, maybe I'll find out where she's at, and then I found all your like wedding stuff, and you did some other one-off stuff I saw on your page. That was super cool. So I was like, okay, well, she's not in Chicago anymore, so that doesn't work.
Right.
But it led me to look at your other stuff that you're working on, and I think we reconnected then. And it's cool to see what else you got into. And I guess that's a great segue to talk about like what was that thing that like really got you into this whole like filmmaker world and being like, ooh, this is it.
Man.
This is it.
Yeah. What a question, you know. I feel like it's I feel like sometimes I have the kind of a very similar answer to other people who are our age who are into filmmaking.
Yeah.
And because we kind of grew up with the internet, and we grew up with like the transition from like those like mini DV tapes into digital.
Still got them.
We had access to and we had access to both forms.
Yeah.
And so when I was really little, my parents had, you know, as most parents of the 90s had like a big chunky video camera, and like they will tell you that I was always asking to use the camera. Like every time my dad would pull it out, I would be like, can I have a turn now? Like you can find video of me being like, can I do it? Like it's so funny, because I'm just like I'm trying to be like all cute, like, can I have a turn? It's my turn, Dad. But I just always wanted to hold the camera, and I think I was just fascinated with the fact that you could like create something that would last. Like you would like film it and you could look back at it and be like, like I saw this with my eye, and then I like captured it forever. And I don't know, I must have just been fascinated with that idea. So I was always asking to use the camera. And then as I got a little bit older, and I started to have my own camera, and was like starting to watch more movies, especially like the DVD era. I was really into bonus features, watching the special features on DVDs. Specifically, do you remember Peter Pan, the live action Peter Pan from like 2004?
I like vaguely.
Did you ever see that movie?
Like vaguely remember. I don't remember details.
So that movie was like just hit for me for some reason, because I first of all just love Peter Pan, love the story, but like the special features were like really intense. Like Lord of the Rings is another good example. Lord of the Rings has like really good special features. And they like go into detail about how they do all the like special effects and visual effects. But Peter Pan was like it for me, because they did a lot of really cool set design and costume design, and I like watched those more than I watched the movie itself.
Right.
So I just was just really into, the creation of a movie.
Yeah.
And then I also did like theater and,
I didn't know that.
acting in musicals. Yeah, in high school and in grade school, I was just very into performing myself. So I was just always very artistic and theatrical and creative since I was little. So it's like been a part of me forever. So I can't really I can't pinpoint specific moments, but I can think of like special features of movies, and I can think of little memories that I have of wanting to hold the camera and wanting to be the one to like film the Christmas present opening,
Right.
So
That's cool.
I don't have a specific moment, but a lot of different little memories that made me always want to do it. And then like by the time I was in high school and I was looking, at colleges and trying to figure out what I wanted to study, I was like, I can't think of anything else. Like I cannot picture myself doing anything else, which I was really lucky at that time, because when you're like 17, 18, it is so difficult to like decide what you're going to do.
It's the hardest thing ever
for the rest of your life. And so I really feel like so blessed for having an idea of what I wanted to do, because it's a stressful period of life. And then I just started looking at film schools.
And then you ended up in Chicago for a little bit, and then you went somewhere else after that, right? Or would you?
Well, I just Chicago and then back to my hometown. Mm-hmm. So I went to DePaul University in Chicago, studied digital cinema, and then I was in Chicago for a year after graduating, and then I moved back to Toledo after that, because that year that I was in Chicago after graduating, I was doing a lot of freelancing while I was like looking for jobs. Mm-hmm. So this is a good segue. I don't know if the next question is, how did I make this a business?
Oh,
is that the next question?
I mean, I was gonna ask another question,
No.
but you can. This actually works out. I was gonna ask you like, because you were transitioning into like doing more freelancing stuff. At which point, but I guess there was like a little gap there that we missed. So you had like an old camera that you used to shoot with, and then now you like went over to this. The camera.
Oh, yes.
So what did you like? What made you be like, ooh, I need to like upgrade to this camera. I need to get or like, and how did you decide on that?
Well, this goes together with like me starting my own business. Mm-hmm. It's all
one big thing. It's a
yes, it's all one story, So I mean, if you really want to go really far back, my first camera ever was this little green plastic camera called a V-Cam. I forget the brand. It was like a toy camera. Mm-hmm. Like I got it in 5th grade, and it was a video camera, like a camcorder.
Yeah, I remember those.
So it had a screen, but it was like plastic and tiny, really, really small. Mm-hmm. And I used to make like little commercials with my little cousins with it. Then I upgraded to like a more sophisticated digital camera, the Sony CyberShot.
Fancy.
It was blue. I loved it. Made a lot of, that was like the beginning of my YouTube career. I made a lot of like music videos and put them on YouTube like in 7th and 8th grade in high school.
That was the vibe.
But then like it was like I said, we grew up with like YouTube and like the internet and stuff. And it was like, we had access to all that we had access to consumer level cameras and like being able to share them like pretty instantly. So like getting feedback, like it was like,
I think some of them even
a time.
I think some of those cameras even had the upload to YouTube button like right on them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember like the flip camera?
I was just gonna bring
like
that up.
Little, like had the
yeah, that was the era.
Yeah. So but when I was in high school and I was like when I was talking about like, oh well, I knew what I wanted to do, I knew that this was something I felt a little bit more serious about, I saved up my money to buy my first DSLR, and I got a Canon T3i, which I feel like a lot of people our age know that camera and maybe started with a version of that Canon Rebel series.
Yeah.
So I had that into college, and I just used it very hobby-like, just for making little fun things and taking photos. And with that camera, I started what was then only photography business. I would go home to Toledo, and like in the summer, and I had people who knew that I was interested in videography and photography and stuff and asked me to take their family pictures or their senior pictures. So I started doing a lot of senior pictures with that T3i, like, and the, you know, nifty 50, 1.8, like that really cheap 50 millimeter lens. But like actually established like a nice little following and was like kind of blown away by how quickly it picked up and was like, whoa, I could like make money off of this. Like I could like actually like make this a side job.
Yeah.
And so I did. So like the summer after it, I was like, okay, like I want to be more serious about it. And then I bought my first full frame camera, which I still have and still use. I bought the Canon 5D Mark III. And I started doing photography a little bit more like professionally. And so that's how the business started. Like that's how the like freelancing started, was with photography.
Let me ask you a question, because one thing that comes with that I don't want to like glaze over is like you get a couple of responses, right, when you start doing this thing, because you're kind of putting yourself out there. It's not, you don't just dive in, everyone's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, there's people that, there's like backlash that comes with it, I feel like for me, I definitely had those people that were like, yeah, you don't have a real job, dude. Like, come on, talk to me when you have a real job. So did you experience any of that when you did this? Were people like, come on, Ellen, like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, luckily I was still in college, so it was just kind of like, I was doing it on the summer vacation. So like, I think people were didn't think, I think when I graduated college, I started to feel that judgment a little bit more, for sure.
Yeah.
Even I felt that judgment in school because people, I think, were like, you're a film major, like that's not real, you're never gonna make money.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna get a job, like it's gonna be hard for you, you're gonna be a struggling artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt that judgment, but I think that I was lucky because first of all, my parents were very supportive because they knew that I loved doing what I was doing. And they also, I think, could see that like I had some talent. Like they were like, oh yeah, if she's serious about it, she will make it happen. Right. I think that's what they thought. Or else I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have let me do it. Or maybe they would have been like, well, have you considered, so yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily get backlash, but I think that it more was like my own like insecurity too, especially after graduating college. I was like, I don't have a real job. I was like, oh, and I didn't consider myself a professional. Right. I wasn't like, I was like, oh, I just do this and I make money, but like, it's not, it doesn't feel sustainable. It doesn't feel right. It was very unknown at the time. I was really uncertain about it.
There's a lot of things you feel with it, right? It's like, there's just so many dynamics to it. But I think that's the thing. Once you get past that, you have that you're like, ooh, I believe in myself. I can do this. Like there's more people. There's, like you said, you had Instagram following picking up, like people seeing what you're doing, and you're like, ooh, this is like something I can do.
Well, like once you start to get the positive feedback, you're like, oh, I didn't even really realize that this is something that people would like and like want from me. Like, especially because, imposter syndrome can be like an ever present battle. So like, I'm always thinking like, oh, well, there's a lot of people out there who are better than I am at this. Like, why would anyone want to hire me when they could hire someone else who is 10 times better than me? But, it's like, I think that you have a community that, like, supports you and, like, sees potential in you. And so I think that's what I had at the time. I had people who were like, well, I like her. I like her as a person, and I want to see her succeed. So I'm going to give her a chance. And I think that I had a lot of good people behind me hiring me for that reason.
That's super cool. That's what the support's all about.
Right.
So with that said, then you could dive into like what got you. You did photo, and then you made like a gradual transition into video from there.
Right.
So what was like from when you were shooting photo to video? When were you just like, oh, maybe I should do video? Because the one thing that I always talk about with my friends is like especially when you and I first started shooting video. Back then it was more of like oh, you have a camera, I need you to shoot a video. And now it's like such a common thing for people to be like everybody has a like even if they don't know about a camera, someone just has a DSLR now, But back then it was more of
Yeah.
like they've got a camera. Like, I need this person. So it became more of like a battle to exactly to what you were saying. It was like, why are they hiring me when someone else? Because that was what we were going up against. Because more people had cameras, and they were more affordable,
Right.
and stuff like that. So yeah, what was like how did you like go from like photo transition at that point?
Well, so you know how I was talking about like that year after graduating, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I went to school with a lot of people who moved immediately to like LA or New York or stayed in Chicago and worked in like, you know, the unions there, and worked on TV and film sets. And when I first started college, that was something that I thought I really wanted. And then like halfway through college, I was like, I had a few experiences on set that I was just like, this is not giving me the satisfaction and energy I thought it would. It was like way too much. It was I was overstimulated on set. And I still think it's really cool to be on set, don't get me wrong. Like for the productions that like I really like feel connected to,
right.
Like yes. But just that lifestyle and like that
the hours too.
Pace wasn't for me. Yeah, the hours are insane, man. Like, so I mean, the friends that I have who are in unions and stuff are like currently battling for better hours right now. Like,
same.
It's rough. So anyway, I like halfway through college was like, you know what? I didn't think narrative film is not for me. I thought it was, but it's not. And I took a documentary class, and it really clicked. Because it wasn't like I watched a ton of documentaries.
Me neither.
Or like ever thought that's what I wanted. But it was like, it opened this like pathway to like what documentary is, like documentary style work. So it's just like the style of work, the kind of filming that you do, like the just run and gun kind of filming is considered documentary style work and documentary style editing, where you like have all these pieces and you have to put it together, so there's no script.
Right.
I realized after taking that class, like, oh, a documentary is not just like one of those Netflix like Ken Burns like panning pictures, and you know what I mean? Like, it's not just that. It's kind of like my idea of a documentary.
Right.
But it can be all kinds of things. So after like that clicking in my brain, I was like, I don't have to move to LA. I don't have to work on Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
Like I can make this a career and make it like something that I still enjoy, but it doesn't have to be so large scale, and it can be somewhere else in the United States. Which it made me really like, that gave me a lot of peace, because I was like, oh man, like I don't want to move to LA. I don't want like that lifestyle.
That scared
is
me
crazy.
too.
Like,
it scared me.
Yeah. So so that year between graduating and moving back home, I was really kind of like, it was a rough year. It was a hard year, because I was like trying to figure out like, what kind of job can I get if like now I have this really niche kind of style of filmmaking. You know, if you want to make a documentary, it's really hard to get paid. It's really hard to get funding. You kind of have to like just do it and then hope that people will like it, and you can show it to people and then somehow get paid for it. You know, like it's not as streamlined
as you'd think.
So I was like, how in the world am I going to make this work for myself and like still get paid? So as I was like looking for jobs, I was still looking for jobs in Chicago, you know, just ad agencies and stuff like that. Any kind of work I
did
could
that
get, I was
too.
taking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why So Far came up, because I was like, it was like any experience. I was soaking up every experience I could get. And like,
Same.
So Far was one of them. So, but as I was doing that, I still had this little side gig that I had from the past few years, you know, of taking people's family photos and senior pictures and headshots. So that was growing. Like that was growing while I was still in Chicago. And I was like having people asking me to take their senior pictures. And I was at that point where I did not want to turn down work. So I would come home for long periods of time. I would go back to Toledo and like for like a week and like fit all of those senior shoots, all of those family shoots in 1 week, and then go back to Chicago and like pay my rent with the money I made in Toledo.
Oh my goodness.
So it was like very like, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I in Chicago still? Like, if I'm going to do this, probably I should do this for real. And when it came to the end of my lease that year, I was like, okay, I still don't know what I'm doing. This freelance thing is really taking off. And that was also when I started doing wedding videography, was that year that I moved home. Because I was like, okay, well, I've got the experience of, I have started to learn how to deal with clients and and
couples,
do the business side. Yeah, I've started to learn how to do that with photography. It kind of translated pretty well into videography. And I was like, video is my first love. I went to film school. I want to do video. So why not make this freelancing thing a videography thing?
Right.
And so that year I did 5 weddings. And I was so new to it. I was using my Canon 5D Mark III, which is not a good video camera. But it's all I had. And I think about those 5 weddings, and I think about those 5 people who trusted me with their wedding day. And I thank them so graciously for letting me do it. This newbie.
Wait.
Obviously, I had experience. It's not like I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm just running headfirst into the wedding videography business.
There's no other way to do it, right? You kind of have to dive. It's so weird. What did you charge? If you don't mind me asking, on the very first one, did you go free or did you charge a little bit? Or?
Oh, the very first one, I was begging the bride to let me do it. So the bride was one of my best friend's sister was getting married, and I was like, it was the perfect timing. I was wanting to start my wedding videography business, and she was getting married. So I was talking to my friend. I was like, do you think she would let me film her wedding? I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free. And then her sister was like, well, I'm not going to let you do it for free, but she didn't pay me much. I got $200 for
I
that
got
one.
120 on my first one.
Which looking back at that, it's so little money.
The bottom of the ocean,
so
just
money.
trying to swim.
Yes. But I wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful that she trusted me. She was probably like, oh, it's $200. Whatever you can do is fine. But I think she was pleasantly surprised with what I was able to hand over. And because of that one wedding, there was a couple at that wedding who saw the video, and then they contacted me, and we were like, we were there, we want you to film our wedding. And it just kind of picked up.
Oh my goodness.
So
were you nervous about that second one?
If you had oh yeah oh yeah, I was like, oh no, now they really now I really have to prove myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I transitioned into video. I just kind of was like, I wanted it, and I was like, okay, I'm not really finding a job, a 9-to-5 job here. And I kind of like freelancing. I like that I'm my own boss here. And I like that I've been able to pay my rent for a year. So let's really dive into this, and let's make this a full-time thing. So
yeah, and it's been really,
then I started doing weddings.
It's been really successful for you since, which is
It
so
has.
cool. So when you did, let's go back to that real quickly. So what was that like with the second wedding? When you said you're nervous, it was you felt a lot of pressure.
I feel like that the first couple of weddings I was very torn between wanting to just kind of figure it out for myself and work with what I had, and then also doing a ton of research, watching so many wedding videos on YouTube and looking up all the best gear, and at that point I didn't know anyone else who was doing it. I was really on my own. The only person that I knew who was doing it was actually a YouTube friend I had made from my early YouTube days, 2007, 2008. She was doing it. She's from Memphis. she was doing it out there, and I just followed her on Instagram and watching her have the successful business. So I chatted with her. That was really helpful, was talking to her about how she ran her business, and learning about contracts, and learning about how to interact with clients and stuff.
Right.
Just through conversations with her. And she's my age. She's figuring it out as she goes too. She just was a little bit ahead of me. So it was the perfect amount of time between her starting her business and me starting my business for me to learn from her.
Right.
And it's like easier when you can talk to someone who's like just enough ahead of you and they're still figuring it out, because you can like relate to them still.
Right.
You don't feel like super intimidated by them.
Right.
And they're happy to help you because they're like, I was just there. I was just figuring it out myself. So like, here, I'll give you all of this
Take
info.
notes, guys. Take notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was caught between wanting to figure it out for myself because it was just kind of fun to do that, but it was also really scary. And,
right.
you know, me realizing like I'm filming this like really, really, really important day. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to miss anything. I don't know anyone else really doing this. Locally, I didn't know anyone. So I didn't like have any like concept of like what people were charging locally.
Yeah.
So like that was really hard for me, was coming up with pricing. Also feeling like I'm new to this and like who's going to want to hire someone so new,
right.
and like setting my prices way too low.
That's so hard to figure
so,
out. That is like the hard. I feel like even today with some stuff, I still have to figure that out. Like,
oh yeah,
it's forever. I don't think there's ever a point in this thing where you like there's a point where you can decide on prices, but not like you're not set on them for the rest of your life. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Which is
oh no,
so
they're
crazy.
always changing because you change and your like gear changes and your costs change.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to like compensate yourself.
Yeah.
for all of those things that you have to pay for. So
yeah. So I guess that's a good way to segue into the, so. Actually, you know what? Here, let's fast forward a little bit. So, you did the 2 weddings, and then now you're like having a lot of success with this wedding thing. How is, I guess, how is your experience now that you've like got all this experience and you're out shooting weddings, and it's right now as we're doing this, it's 2021 crazy wedding season. Which if you go to read any forum, everybody is talking about how they're like losing their mind over it. So, how is it going for you, and what's it been like in Ohio to this day?
So the wedding season with the pandemic has been interesting because, you know, last summer I was like a little bit worried I wasn't going to be able to sustain myself. You know, I was worried I wasn't going to get weddings. Mm-hmm. But then I still did.
Right.
Like people were still getting married. People, especially in 2020, people had already had plans. Maybe they had to change them or reschedule them. But I still was able to get weddings. Everything else was a little bit more like I wasn't getting the same kind of commercial business that I was getting before. I wasn't doing as much, you know, with music. Music kind of ended for a minute there. I know,
that was a bummer.
Yeah. So like it was mostly just weddings. I was like living off of weddings. And then everything slowed down, and then 2021 came, and it like people got vaccinated, and it was like, bam, like so many weddings. So it was a good surprise, like a happy surprise, like grateful for the work, but man, was I not ready for the, like, I'm not keeping up very well now. Like I have so much work.
And can we let it be known that
right
like
now.
You also tend to like turn around one day or like next day edits for people, which is like I don't know. I don't know how you have the mental capacity for that, because I shot a wedding the other day and I was like debating on doing it, and I sat down at my desk. I was like, absolutely not. This is not happening. So it's crazy that.
Also, I will let you know that I had a wedding on Saturday, and then I had 2 shoots on Sunday, and I still made a wedding.
How? This is
on Sunday.
This is why you're. How? This is why you're so talented. I am exhausted as frick. I'm not going to cuss. I am so tired. But the reason why I do those very quick turnaround previews is because I am so backed up on editing that I feel like if I give my client something to like relive their wedding day right away, it kind of tides them over and like gives them something to like chew on for a while. Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get to their wedding for like a month or two. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not going to be able to even start their video for like a while.
Same.
Because I have so many weddings from past weeks to work on right now. So like I'm currently editing a wedding from the end of June right now.
My
like
goodness.
that's how backed up I And I'm just one person. Like I don't have any employees
Editors
helping me. So, and like it's not like I just do weddings. I do other videography. So it's management of all of this I'm constantly learning how to keep it all.
Yeah, it's a
together.
never-ending learning process. Like, and it's crazy.
Yes.
I salute you for dealing with all this because we both. That's the thing. Like, we both like run our own business. We don't rely on like other people, and I cannot imagine like, just between all the different projects, and that's the thing. Like, editing takes, like you said, it takes so long to do. So it's just they just keep stacking up.
Right. Like, I've since August, like the first weekend of August, I've had a wedding every weekend. So it's like I just am like adding to my workload. But my weekends are crazy, but then my weeks are nice and like more relaxed. Like yesterday, I just like took the day to myself. I went on a nice walk.
We love that.
I like slept in. So like I'm able to somewhat have
Freedom, so to speak.
I mean, freedom, but like I still have to be on top of editing or else I'm going to really fall behind. So I edit during the week. Sometimes I have shoots during the week, but my weeks are a lot more laid back than my weekends. My weekends are insane.
So if there was like between back then you started and now to kind of like wrap this part of it up, is there something that you've like taken away from like your experience now than before? You're like, this is the thing that I'm like, figure, other than like the business part of it, like you're like is it the shooting part that you're like, oh, okay, now I learned to shoot like this, or now I learned to edit like this, or like you follow what I'm saying?
I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking, but I feel like I have learned a lot about like work-life balance, because when I first started out, I feel like I was taking every single job. Like I was saying yes to everything.
Right.
Because I needed to. And like, I was also just excited. Like I just wanted to have like work behind my belt, whatever the phrase is. So, but then at the same time, I like didn't have a whole lot of experience and didn't have that like I didn't know how to balance it all out. Like get enough sleep and edit at the right times. And I mean, I don't know if there is a right time to edit. Sometimes I'm editing until 3 a.m. still. It's not like I have it all figured out still, but I have made healthier changes since the beginning.
Yeah.
So like I was living in my parents' house when I started. I had no place to work. I was working out of coffee shops. I was working in my parents' dining room. Just better habits, essentially. Like taking care of my mental health, because that's something like, as a freelancer, you feel like your job is never over.
Right.
Like you don't clock out at 5 p.m. You're constantly thinking about everything that you have to do.
Right.
So trying to like, turn my brain off, like not be like at 7 o'clock, I'm done. I'm not editing anymore. I'm not going to email anyone back. I'm not going to, I'm going to like focus on something else and just relax. And so I think I've formed better habits.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah. That answers my question. I think that's a really important takeaway for people listening. That's something to focus on. And I can say right now I need to get better at that. So so that's cool. So I guess we can go into like so you mentioned that you shoot other stuff. We talked about how we shot music. So you went into like you shoot a little bit of music between weddings. But also with that, you've like built a community, or you've had a little community in Ohio, which I think is nice for you, given that you say you started off having nobody, like any grounds with anybody knowing they did this and that. So it's got to be cool that you're now in Toledo and there's the community, which I'll let you talk about.
Sure.
Of people that do film, people that do art, people that do all sorts of crazy stuff. And so yeah, I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that was, so to give a little bit of context, I, along with a few others, created a social group called the Toledo Creatives. And it is exactly what it sounds like. We just meet up to hang out. It's nothing too complicated. We're not a production company. We're not like a agency. We're just a group of people who do creative things.
I
so
can
that's
attest
photography,
to that.
videography. He's been to a few meetups, people. He's come to Toledo Creatives meetups.
I have.
But yeah, no, it is a just a place for people to hang out together and kind of like connect over kind of the commonalities that we have. So a lot of people in the group are freelancers, but we also have full-timers like who have a 9-to-5 job, who work in an agency, or we have just hobbyists who, you know, like to take photos every once in a while. So it's been a neat experience because I have, when I first moved back to Toledo, I followed literally every creative person I could find on Instagram. Like I followed every photographer, every filmmaker, every, you know, like graphic designer, literally everyone. And then like I started to meet those people in real life.
Oh, that's
Creatives,
cool.
Which is really
I didn't know that.
Like we kept having experiences where it would be like, oh, we followed each other for like 3 years and now we're finally meeting in real life. So love that about the
That's
Toledo
really
Creatives
cool.
is that like, because you know creatives kind of tend to be a little bit more introverted.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I'm not speaking for everybody, that's a generalization, but I think that like for the most part creative people are a little bit more introverted, and so having a space to open up and like have this kind of like icebreaker, like, oh, you have a camera, I have a camera, let's talk about our cameras, you know, it's like a cool icebreaker. And yeah, I've formed a lot of good friendships, and now like I work with all these people all the time. I like to kind of like consider them like my coworkers. Like we have like common problems that we have to work out, and you know, we work together, we like hire each other as second shooters and stuff. So I love that community. Thank God for that community.
Such a solid group of people. And yeah, everyone just gets along. Like, I guess my 10 cents on it, like just coming there from Chicago is crazy because like it's always hard, right? In a big group of new people. I mean, as social as I am, I still had that like nervous thing of like, am I gonna actually talk to people in this group? Are they gonna say hi to me? Or are they gonna think I'm this weirdo that drove so far out? I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And sure enough, it was like the first day in, everybody was like so welcoming. By the time I left, I felt like I've known these people for like 10 years. It was crazy. Now I just look at these people like I've known them my whole life, which is like so weird for me to say, but it's true. It feels that way.
Well, I think it kind of speaks to the Toledo community, because Toledo's like this smaller city. You know, in Ohio, we've got Columbus and Cincinnati and Cleveland. Like those are the big three. And then Toledo kind of like creeps in this as the fourth biggest city. Like nobody really likes Toledo. We're like considered Detroit is a really cool city, but it used to be like people used to regard Detroit as like a terrible city too. And so like people call Toledo a little Detroit sometimes. Like it's like got similar vibes. But I think we're really going through this renaissance period right now, and like people are waking up to the really cool parts of Toledo. And it's a small enough community that like you can really make yourself known and you can meet a lot of people and you can form good relationships. But it's a big enough community that you can still have a good clientele and like, you know, I don't know. I have a really soft spot for my hometown, obviously. So yeah, Toledo, love it.
Yeah, so it's really cool that everyone's came together. And I've noticed like the other day you, if it was on your story or in a post, but I think it was a post, someone from the group go do drone footage like at the wedding. Oh yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
I always find that like a cool, unique experience when you get like for me, I meet people at SoFar, I meet people at a show or something, and I'm able to be like, hey, I remember you did that thing. Like, come with me, do your thing.
Exactly. Like I said, like it's like we help each other out all the time now. So I don't have a drone and I don't use a drone for my wedding videography, but this client really wanted drone footage for this specific part of the day. And I was like, all right, you know what? I know people who do drone. I'll coordinate that, you know?
Yeah.
And I was able to, like, I had like 5 people in my head who could do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I hit one of my friends up and I was like, hey, can you fly drone for me?
I think that's the cool part too, is like being able to trust people. Cause like, for instance, to give you an example, I was out in Jamaica recently and I needed Beach Bunny. Their management hit me up to film a show of theirs at Riot Fest. but I was gone. But I really wanted to make sure that they got like a proper looking show because hundreds of thousands of people are going
You've
to
worked
be
with them before.
seeing this. But I was like,
Yeah.
I want this to look good. So who can I trust? And I just went down the list of like people that I've like worked with that I can trust that are available. And then they did a good job. So now I'm editing it. So it's like a matter of like finding those like right people that you trust.
Yeah.
To like still.
Yep.
Because the most important part of this all is like holding on to your like image and your like look, right? Because like you don't just have someone there that shoots a completely different style, completely different way. Because it just doesn't it doesn't work with your work. It doesn't blend. So that's like a forever battle, at least for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, this person better.
For sure. For sure. No, yeah, you're right. Like this person who I had do it for me, like I've worked with him enough now that first of all, I trust him wholeheartedly. Like whatever he does, I know it will look good. Yeah. But I also trust him to like listen to me and act and like do what I say. You know what I mean? Like he knows my style and he knows that what I'm going to be looking for before I even open my mouth. Like we trust each other. We have a good relationship there. So yeah. I think that's like I said, it's the most important part of it all. Was there anything else about like is there any like cool other experience you've had with the creatives and everybody? Have you met like someone that like helped you do this, or maybe not even helped you, just someone that you're like, oh, that's a cool story? Or has there been like anything really cool that came out of it that you're like, I'm glad for this group? Well, yeah, I mean, I think that like we grew so fast. It was kind of, we started in January 2020. So it was right before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I think that was kind of perfect because we picked up speed when people needed the social time the most. You know, we were all at home and we were all not working as much. So we needed that social interaction. So we started having outdoor meetups in the spring of 2020. Well, late spring, early summer. And then it picked up so quickly because I think people were starved for that and really needed that connection. And because it picked up so fast, we were gaining all this traction, and like we have a Facebook group that now has like 600, 700 people in it.
So crazy.
It's insane. Our meetups, we don't always get like 700 people at our meetups, but I would say we get about 30 people at each meetup, which I think is like
still
stellar.
Phenomenal.
Like that's awesome. Yeah. And new people at every meetup. Like I'm always meeting someone new. And people always bring their friends. And I think the coolest part about it is that we are gaining just like other organizations in Toledo are noticing us. Right. Like we will be partnering with like the library system soon to do some artist spotlights. We've partnered with the Metro Parks to host meetups, and they're like people support us as an entity, even though we're not like an official nonprofit or an official company or anything. Like we are just a group of people who have similar interests in our creative, but like I think people like really regard the arts as something that's really important, and so like they're happy to support us. So it's cool that like bigger organizations and nonprofits are like reaching out to us now and like saying, hey, we want to work with you. Even though it's like we're not even really like, you know what I mean? Like we're just like we're just like a group of friends essentially. We're just like a social group
that an organization cool trusts.
Right. Yeah. But I think again it speaks to just the like size and like community and like passion that there is in this small city. So
right. So I guess that said, this is a good segue into this. So out of that, you like you just said, there's been some organizations have contacted you guys, done other projects. What's been like your favorite project since everything? I guess like what's been like other than doing weddings, because obviously like you have your love for shooting weddings, but like what's been like a fun other project that you've worked on? All together that you're like, this is the one, I need like 1 million people to see this.
Oh my gosh, there's been so many that I've done that I've really loved, but I think that I'm going to talk about two. Okay,
go for it.
So first of all, we met through music, filming music. Yeah. I also do some videography for a local band here called Oliver Hazard, which you ended up seeing Oliver Hazard at a So Far show in Chicago, which is so sick.
Cool. And I listen to their music every day.
They're the best. I love them. But so yeah, I've been working with them since almost since I moved back to Toledo. So, they're the best, and I do live performances for them, but I also, like on Wednesday, we're going to be filming a little, not really a music video, a live performance of a song, but in a controlled space. So it won't be like at a show. It will be like, they're recording the sound.
Right.
They're doing a live performance. But I still work with them all the time, and I love working with them because it's something that I just love music in general, and I love that genre of music. It's like very folky.
Yeah, it's really good.
So I just feel like I'm having fun every time I work with them. It just feels fun. Like, I don't even care if they pay me. Like, I'm just like hanging out and filming, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm doing what I love, and I'm enjoying the music, and I'm hanging out with cool people, and like, love that.
Yeah.
So anytime I work with Oliver Hazard or like any other musician, like I've done a few music videos for other musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing music videos because it's really, I get to be very creative with that. And it's like flexing a muscle that I don't often get to flex. And you really need to have that, like because you can get really set in your ways when you're doing wedding videography.
Yeah.
So it's nice to do other projects to kind of like flex that creativity muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other project I was going to tell you about was this past summer. I worked with a local photographer here. We partnered up and we told the story of Juneteenth in Toledo, Ohio. There was a Juneteenth
I remember this.
Parade and then event afterwards that I helped him kind of like document. So he is a film photographer. He shoots in black and white almost exclusively and has this like 70-year-old camera.
Oh my God.
And he's pretty well known in the Toledo area, and he does all kinds of street photography but kind of focuses on the Black community in Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt honored when he asked me to help him create this video about Juneteenth in this neighborhood. And we kind of did this mixed media project where he took photos. He did what he did best. He took photos of people and he talked to them, because he doesn't only take photos of people, but he talks to that person and he gets their story.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of did this thing where like I filmed the whole process. I filmed him taking the photo. I filmed him talking to that person. So we got all these stories from that day and we're able to document that.
That's so sick.
In a really meaningful way. Yeah, it was so fun. And it was like, that was a passion project. Like,
yeah.
That was just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it really fed that like yearning I have to tell stories, like the documentary style.
Just gonna say that.
Yeah, it was just so, and that's the kind of stuff that I would love to be doing all the time. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's hard to like figure out a way to like sustain yourself and make a living doing those kind of projects. Like you do have to have something like wedding videography to,
on the back end,
pay your way.
Yeah.
But still be able to, it's like that Juneteenth video is like what really brings me fulfillment, and it makes it feel like I'm doing something important, and like I would love to use my skills as a way to give back or like elevate someone's voice. Like that's it. Like that's what I want.
I love that. So wholesome of you.
Thank you.
So I guess that leads me to like two questions then. So I guess to kind of go backwards a little bit to that first project, my favorite thing with the Oliver Hazard one you did, I love the one where they're like playing in the middle of the river.
Yes.
That to me is super cool. I love that one, just seeing them like go into the woods. And I feel like it came up on my feed recently, or someone brought it to my attention again, but it was so cool how like you just go through. Oh yeah, a client of mine actually like I think sent me it or something, because like it was cool how you like went through the woods and you see them like go to their spot, and it's like it's the coolest thing ever, because it feels real, like you're walking with them and they're performing. So it's not like they're just there and you have no connection to it. You feel connected because of that.
And like that video is it was so like, we planned a little bit of it, but the best part about working with Oliver Hazard is we could just like understand each other. Like we get like we like that run and gun, like DIY kind of filmmaking. And like we taped iPhones to the back of their guitars, and that's how we recorded the sound. Like, I had a little microphone that I used too for like ambient noise for like the water that you hear, the rushing water in the river. But like for the most part, the music is coming from recordings on their iPhones taped to the back of their guitars.
So cool.
So like, so cool. That video was so fun. But that's the kind of stuff I love too, is like it's telling a story. So like this band is from Waterville, Ohio, which is a small town, in the greater Toledo area that's right on the river. It's right on the Maumee River. So like there are these like small town boys from the river.
It's like an iconic spot.
So I was like, okay, we need to make a video where you guys are literally in the river, because I feel like it's like such like there's this really old historic bridge nearby, and I was like, it's like a iconic Waterville spot. I was like, we need to capture that in that video. We need to show like this is your hometown. And like, so that was super fun. I loved making that video.
It came across so well. I kind of forget who sent it. I just remember someone saying, they're like, I love how this video starts. I was like, yes, I've seen this video. I love it. But yeah, so going off of that, to that other project you were talking about, that was seriously really cool. I remember seeing like the posts and everything with that. I could tell just from seeing what you guys put together that it really fed that like documentary thing that you want to shoot. But with that said, you're working towards another thing right now, right? It was called like Storied. Thing. Yeah. What's going on? Do you have like a brief little synopsis of what's going on with that? Because I know that's like a documentary sort of thing.
Yeah. So the idea behind Storied. So I'm not the main like driver behind Storied. I'm kind of partnering up with another artist in Toledo who had the idea and is the owner of Storied. But it's just a 3-person team, and the whole concept is documenting family biographies, essentially. So filming your grandparents and interviewing them about their lives, and asking them all really important questions so that you have that forever documented as like an heirloom. So like video documentaries about family storytelling. Yeah. But it won't just be that. It will also be, it doesn't have to be like, the grandparents of the family. It can be like, we made a video of these 2 little boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we asked them questions about life. So it's kind of like documenting somebody at a certain point in their life to try and capture their like likeness on video and hear their voice, and like, so that's the concept behind Storied. It's a tiny little production company. But we're also working on a video series project like under the Storied brand. Right. Actually filming this week for it. Sick. But it will be a series called Before You Speak, where we'll make short documentaries about people of all different backgrounds and ages and genders, and we'll tell their story first. So we'll make these portrait documentaries, and then we're gonna put 2 of those people in a room and have them talk to each other. So it's just kind of like you learn about them before, and you learn about their story, and you meet them as a character, and then later on you'll see one of them talk to another person, and whatever their conversation, whatever happens, is off the cuff. And so that's a cool project that I'm working on right now with a friend. Yeah,
that is such a cool project. Yeah, I wanted to ask about it because I've seen a lot of stuff about it. I'm like, this is a cool concept. This is really good. It seems, again, right up your alley. It fulfills that documentary in you. Yes. Yeah. So holy cow. I guess we could come to the end of it here with the advice segment. Unless is there anything else that like you wanted to talk about with video?
I don't know, Max. We could talk forever.
We could. Yeah, I guess we'll like come to the end of it with the advice. Sure. So yeah, do you have any advice for someone that's getting into this field, or someone that wants to get into weddings, or someone wants to shoot music or anything, or someone getting a camera? Like, what's your advice?
Sure. Here? I guess, and this is the advice that I was given, and I really feel like it will carry on for generations. But I think it's just, you just have to keep creating, like follow that like drive that you have,
right.
and don't let it like die out. Don't let the fire die out. Create even if you're not getting paid for it, like, because the more experience you have and the more you flex, like that we were talking about earlier, you flex that creative muscle, the more you'll learn, and you'll like see the patterns in your growth. Like I love looking at the little silly videos I made when I was younger and comparing them to what I do now, because sometimes I'm like, they're not that different.
Right.
Like my camera's changed and my skills have maybe been perfected technically.
Right.
But my heart hasn't changed, and like what I put into it, and like the reason why I love filmmaking hasn't really changed. So
absolutely,
keep the fire burning, like keep creating, and then also find people who are similar to you, and learn from each other, and don't stop learning. Like don't get set in your ways. Even, you went to school for this, I went to school for this, but we're still learning all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, don't think that you got it all figured out.
YouTube University, baby.
Yes! Love a YouTube tutorial.
Don't know where I'd be without it. That's actually really good advice. I would highly suggest taking that advice. You're listening to this. It's a very top-notch advice there.
I'm a pro. Just kidding.
Listen to the pros, guys.
I'm not a pro. I am young. I am still young. I am still learning. I am by no means a pro. I just,
I think we can consider
figuring it out
pros.
as we go.
We've done it long enough. We can be pros. Or at least our clients can think that. So.
Yes.
Yes. Alrighty, my camera battery's getting close to death, but hey.
Close to death.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be dead for good after this. But yeah.
Oh, man.
Holy cow. Thanks again for coming on my podcast. Really enjoyed having you on here. I guess you can leave them with check out Ellen's socials, check out her work. Feel free to drop those.
Yeah.
Can they find you?
So my Instagram is Ellen Dziubek, spelled ELLENDZIUBEK.
Sick.
It is a fun Polish name. And then, you can, I do have a YouTube, but if you really want to like dive deep and see those like early 2000s or like late 2000s, 2009, 2010 videos, LNDZ on YouTube.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah. Check out her stuff. Go there. Go take a look at it. Some really cool stuff. Promise you won't be let down. Promise. Super cool. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. And I'm not gonna cut the call here, but I'm ending the podcast here. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Max. Everyone, go follow Max too. He is so good at what he does.
Thank you.
Max never slows down, and that's something that I really appreciate about Max. He's like constantly working. Hopefully you're taking breaks.
This is my break right now.
Okay, good. Hopefully you're like giving yourself time to relax too, but like he's always pushing out work, and it's always so cool to see all the like fun things that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me
on
this
course.
podcast.
Thanks again for coming on. And if you guys are new here and you enjoyed this, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And again, follow Ellen on her socials. And we'll talk to you guys in the next episode. We'll have more creative people on here. Should be a good time. So subscribe and have a good one, guys. Bye.